Hello, everyone. This is a book review. The book I am going to review today is You Are a Great and Powerful Wizard by Sage Liskey. To summarize this book, this is basically a human self-care book worded in the vocabulary of magic, which I think to some people might sound kind of odd. I think the best way to explain this book is, you know how Aleister Crowley, he said something along the lines once of taking the dump being an act of magic in of itself because it's an act in accordance to the will in case, discarding the material in the body that cannot be used because if it stays there, it'll be toxic and such. This is basically like that concept as a self-care book. Like everything you can think of about human living worded in the way of magic, which I think for anybody who practices other forms of magic, it would be quite beneficial. The back of the book literally says, secular witchcraft to harness your power and agency. That's a very good indication of exactly what this book offers. Good points about this book. Well, it respects diversity, which is a lot to ask for a lot of self-help books. That being said, it doesn't fall, into a lot of the common self-help kind of traps, but it's not perfect either. It really is just a guide on how to live as a person, and it's very supportive of that personhood, especially like in the areas of mental health and self-care and such. And just kind of like thinking about human life in terms of like the human being the wizard and your actions being spells and all this kind of stuff. That being said, there are some things about the book I personally think could have been improved upon. I don't think they take away from the book, other than perhaps, like, personally, you might not really agree with some things. I have noticed the book is quite a Western slant on things, despite its inclusivity. What I kind of take more issue with is some of the wording. One of the big examples of this is I don't like the author kind of associates darkness with negative, with harmful. That is a connotation I think personally, as someone who kind of works with darkness and also has mental health issues. I think that's too nebulous of a term, really. I would prefer something like the affliction. I think that's a lot more of an accurate way to describe a lot of mental health issues, but like I said, it's not my book. And you can kind of like change some of the wording in your head or in your own practice. I kind of noticed like sections of psychology and diet I felt like the author was kind of towing the line on some aspects, even though those sections are extremely helpful. I think the author should have emphasized more, like, contacting professionals in the area. I also think that some of the destructive spells kind of aspects are a bit judgmental. Again, you can kind of see some of the author's biases and some of the selective material wording, but in general, I think the book is rather respectful of differences also, especially within the context of especially North American Western culture. Do I recommend this? I honestly think anybody on any path would benefit from reading this book. I think everybody who isn't magically inclined should read it at least once to kind of give a sense of how to have self-care in your magic path, if that is something you would like to incorporate in each other. It's also kind of one of the least problematic self-care books I've read, which there are a lot of really bad self-care books out there, not just in content and advice, but in, like, wording as well. I think it's up there with one of the better self-care and self-help books you can read. So I think that's where I stand on this book. Again, I think people should read this despite my admittedly minor personal issues with it. And with that being said, thank you for watching and listening. If you like what you see on this channel, at the very least do consider subscribing. I am posting a new video every other Saturday, as of now, and I hope to see you around.